Hello, science enthusiast. Welcome back to my channel. This channel is specifically for competitive exam preparation. In this video, I am bringing you the weekly science and technology current affairs from 25th to 31st July, covering 57 most important updates, and I'm giving it in details. These updates are extremely beneficial for aspirants of UPSC, BPSC, UPPCS, State PCS, SSC, SBI, NDA, CDS, ACIO, and other competitive exams. Make sure to watch till the end, as every single point can be a potential question in your exam, Tier 1 and Tier 2 exam. Let's begin. Very soon, I will be uploading part 2 of current affairs covering 90 more important news. Part 1 I have already uploaded. Next, idiom series, one word substitution series, important grammar rules, biotechnology series, which is specifically curated for UPSC and NEET aspirants. So let's get started. India's Research Development and Innovation Scheme. In move to enhance India's research and innovation landscape, the Union Cabinet has approved the Research Development and Innovation Scheme. This initiative, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, allocates a substantial amount of rupees 1 lakh crore to invigorate to support private sector involvement in research and innovation field, recognizing it is very important for India's economic growth and self-reliance, self-dependence. So these RDI scheme is designed with many key objectives. First, to encourage the private sector to invest in research and innovation, particularly in sunrise sectors that are important for economic security. Then to finance transformative projects that demonstrate higher technology readiness levels. Also, it's helping to move to enhance India's research and innovation landscape. The Union Cabinet has approved the Research Development and Innovation Scheme. So this scheme mostly aims to help support private sector involvement in research and innovation, recognizing its very important role in India's economic growth and self-reliance, self-dependence. So the RDI scheme features two-tiered funding mechanism. The first tier involves a special purpose for fund within the Anusandhan National Research Foundation. The first tier fund is associated with the Anusandhan National Research Foundation. So this fund will manage the allocation of resources, different type of resources, to various second level fund managers. So funding will be primarily be involved as long-term concessional loans. These loans are often at low or very nil or nil interest rates. So in these circumstances, equity financing will also be available, particularly for startups companies. So the government of the RDI scheme is structured to ensure effective oversight and strategic direction. So the Executive Council of ANRF will establish the guidelines for the scheme and recommend suitable fund managers and projects types. So the Executive Council of ANRF, they will establish the guidelines for the different types of schemes and recommend suitable fund managers and for different types of suitable fund managers and project types. So empowered group of secretaries which is led by the cabinet secretary will oversee the approval of project types, fund managers, and any necessary changes to the schemes. So EGOS, which is led by the cabinet secretary, will oversee all the project types, fund managers, and any necessary changes to the scheme. There is some implementation and impact also. So Department of Science and Technology is designated as nodal department, which is responsible for implementing this scheme, RDI scheme. So it is a long-term affordable financing. The scheme aims to encourage India's self-reliance and enhance global competitiveness. So it is important steps to achieve the mission of Viksit Bharat by the year 2047, which will help in positioning India as a leader in innovation and technology. Second news about breakthrough molecular imaging technique reveals real-time motion. Recent advancement at the California Institute of Technology. Recent advancement take place at the California Institute of Technology, which have enabled real-time imaging of molecular motion at unprecedented scale. So, using a novel new optical technique, scientists can now visualize particles as small as 10 of youngsters, means 10 to the power minus 10 meter. So, using this novel technique, scientists can visualize particles as small as tens of youngsters. This development allows direct observation. This breakthrough allows direct observation of molecular dynamics in the field of fluids and gases, which is opening in new avenues in biomedical research and nanotechnology. It is a boon for biomedical research and nanotechnology. In this, there is the involvement of Brownian motion. So, Brownian motion is zigzag motion, random movement of particles suspended in a fluids. So, it results from constant collision with the surrounding molecules. So, it was first explained by Albert Einstein over a century ago. So, this phenomena reveals how microscopic particles behave in liquid and gases. So this new imaging technique exploits Brownian motion to infer inform about molecular size and behavior. So there is some traditional limitation of traditional microscopy. So what are the limitation? Conventional microscope have some limited resolution, and we know very well. So conventional microscope have limited resolution power, and it often requires sample preparation, pre-sample preparation, invasive sample preparation. They can distinguish molecular smaller than a few hundred nanometers. So existing methods totally depend on slow point by point scanning, which restricts real time observation. So these limitation constant have hindered direct visualization of molecular interaction at the Youngstern scale. So these are the limitation of traditional microscopy. About innovative imaging approach, in this the Caltech team, which they develop a single shot microscope with the help of ultra fast laser. They have used ultra fast laser pulses and digital micrometer devices. Two things are used. First is ultra fast laser pulses, and second is digital micrometer devices. These laser slices through sample, causing them to emit light to produce lights. And now digital micrometer devices shapes the light into different patterns that code molecular information. So stick camera that converts light photons into lacton patterns, which reveals about the molecular movements in nanoseconds. About speed and scale advantages, so this technique achieves imaging speeds of hundreds of billions of frames per second. So it captures wide field images spanning centimeters, much larger than the traditional microscopes. So these are the advantages of this innovative imaging approach. So this allows observation of molecular ensembles in real time without harmful effect of any samples or without damaging samples. So this method, the method is non-intrusive and requires minimal preparation. No prior preparation is required. About application and testing, researchers tested the microscope on fluorescent dextran molecules. So, used of fluorescent dextran molecules, which is commonly used in medical diagnosis. So, they also observed black carbon nanoparticles in flames, which provides the technique versatility in both liquid and gas phases. So, they used black carbon nanoparticles in flames, and they are used in both. They are able to use in both liquid and gas phases. So these results confirm its accuracy, potential for studying in chemical reaction and biological process live. So what are the significance for science and technology? So this breakthrough could revolutionize fields such as drug design, how to design drug, how to detect prior detection of any disease, and nanomaterial fabrication. So by providing direct visualization of molecular interaction, it helps better understanding of fundamental processes of life. The ability to capture ultra fast molecular dynamics, it may also lead to innovation in chemistry and biophysics. It is not only beneficial in biology, it is also beneficial in chemistry and biophysics as well. So it is the image of ultra fast laser. Third news is about Chemaegastrodia ricinensis. So scientists from Mizoram University and Manipur University announced the discovery of a new orchid species. So they announced the discovery of new orchid species. Name of that species is Chemaegastrodia ricinensis. Chemaegastrodia ricinensis, which is found in the forest of Mizoram. So this rare orchid belongs to the Elozyp genus, and the name of that genus is Chemaegastodia, and is important for its completely because it lacks chlorophyll. It does not have chlorophyll. This genus Chemaegastodia does lack chlorophyll. So it depends entirely on symbiotic association, symbiotic fungi for nutrients. So this orchid had symbiotic association with fungi to get the nutrients, making it homozygotic. Means they are unable to perform photosynthesis because they do not have chlorophyll, so they are not able to make their own foods. So it totally depends on symbiotic fungi to for nutrients. The finding marks the rich biodiversity of Northeast India and the ecological uniqueness of the Reek region. So about discovery and identification of this orchid species. So this new species was found near Reek Peak in Mizoram at an elevation of 1500 meters. The orchids full in moist, humus, rich soil close to bamboo clumps confirmed it as a distinct species with the genus Chemaegastrodia. So these orchids found in the region, that region is moist, humus, rich soil. So this genus now includes 8 known species worldwide. So this genus is now at present 8 known species worldwide. Its presence in Mizoram marks the first record of Chemaegastrodia in the Mizoram. About botanical characteristic of this species, Chemaegastrodia ricinensis lack leaves. It does not have leaves. It does not have chlorophylls. So it survives. How does it survive? It survives entirely through underground fungal association. So the plant has a camouflage appearance, making it hard to spot. So it's always flowers from August to September and fruits and gives fruits from September to October. So its small size and brief emergence period add to difficulty of studying it in the wild and is studying it previously. What are the ecological signification? The Reek forest is a part of a Reek forest which is found in the Indo-Burman biodiversity hotspot. So it has multi-layered canopy with there is many tall trees and dense understory vegetation. The climate is almost tropical with temperature between 20 to 28 degrees Celsius, and annual rainfall in this area is 200 to 250 centimeters. These environments support a many variety of plant species, including different types of orchids. The discovery of Chemaegastrodia ricinensis and another new plant, as Acinanthes ricinensis, puts stress on the region which are having exceptional different types of plant diversity. So to discovery Chemaegastrodia ricinensis and another new plant is Aschinanthus ricinensis. They are found in that area particular, which indicates that they are full of different types of plant diversity. So what are the conservation status and challenge? Due to its rarity and specialized different types of it does not have leaves, it does not have chlorophyll. So because of that specialized habitat, Chemaegastrodia ricinensis is listed as critically endangered under IUCN criteria. So its dependence on subterranean fungi makes it vulnerable to environmental change. So habitat disturbance or loss could threaten its, because of the too many habitat disturbance or loss, it could threaten its survival. So conservation efforts are very important to protect this species and maintain the ecological balance of the reek forest, which which is part of Indo-Burman biodiversity hotspot. About regional biodiversity importance, Northeast India is well known for its rich orchid diversity, with Mizoram alone having different types of species, 273 species across 74 genera. So discovery of this new orchid marks the region's role as important center for botanical research and conservation. So it also calls for further exploration, discovery and study of the areas as unique ecosystem. Next news is about CERT, the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team unveils comprehensive cyber security audit policy. So, the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team has introduced a landmark directive which is requiring for all public and private organization who they are managing digital system, they are undergo comprehensive third party cyber security audits annually. So according to Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, they have introduced a landmark directive policy for all public and private organization managing digital system to undergo comprehensive third party cyber security audits annually every year. So this is the first time such a mandate applies to the private sectors, to private organization, or to all public and private organization, and this time first time to the private sector. So certain guidelines allow sectoral regulators to enforce more frequent audits if there is a required, there is a more frequent audit. So the move aims to enhance India's cyber security resilience and rising cyber threats, because there is an increase in cyber threats. So there is a need of India's cyber security resilience as well. What are CERT's in cyber security audit policy? So CERT's in new comprehensive cyber security audit policy guidelines provide a full framework for conducting audits. The policy covers the entire audit life cycle, including planning, scoping, execution, reporting, and follow-up. It emphasizes a risk-based and domain-specific approach, which is tailored to each organization, business contents, and threat environments. So these guidelines also promote alignment with Indian standards, international standards such as ISO or IEC 27001. So what are the significance for CERT in for public and private sectors? For the first time, private companies are mandated to comply with such annual cybersecurity audits. First time it happened. Previously, such requirements mainly targeted public sector and critical infrastructure entities only. Now, the policy aims to standardize audit practices across different sectors, including public and private organization, ensuring uniform, same, equals security standards. So it also empowers regulators to impose stricter audit frequency depending on sector specific risk. So these are about the cybersecurity threats, DNS attacks, SQL injection, main in middle attacks, malwares, denial of service attack, ransomwares, and phishing. These are the cybersecurity threats. Cybersecurity cycles, these are the process, identify assets, evaluate threats and risk, apply safeguards, then monitor safeguards, respond to security incidents, and then make adjustment based on accordingly on that. So transforming audits into strategic tools. So certain mostly emphasize that audits should not be more compliance check boxes. Instead, audit must become strategic instruments for continuous risk assessment and mitigation. So audit must become strategic instruments for continuous risk assessment and mitigation. So these guidelines call for integration of audits with ongoing monitoring and governance improvements. So it will help in building a security culture which focused on resilience rather than just meeting regulatory deadlines. There are some key audit elements and skill enhancement. So this policy marks a crucial audit component such as asset management, vulnerability analysis, risk assessment, and governance evaluation. So it urges impanel auditors, impanel auditors and internal teams to upgrades all skills to detect both technical flaws, limitation, and governance lapses. So post audit remediation and data driven insights are made mandatory, which ensure corrective action follow every assessment. After taking every assessment, there must be corrective action taken place. What are the alignment with national cybersecurity strategy? So these initiatives supports India's broader digital public infrastructure and cybersecurity goals. Collaboration there, it takes collaboration between CISOs, IT teams, auditors, regulators. The policy enhances. So this policy enhances national cyber defense capabilities, and it shifts India's cybersecurity posture from reactive compliance to proactive resilience. So there are some challenges and future impacts. Experts warning, all experts are warning that treating audits as mere formality risk fragile cyber defense, which is vulnerable to ransomware, data theft, and the supply chain attacks also. The new policy seeks to change this mindset by emphasizing there should be real protection and preparedness. Its success depends on organization adopting audits as ongoing tools rather than annual burdens. So its success totally depends on organization adapting to adopt audits on as ongoing tools rather than annual burdens. Next news about NASA's arsenic life claim retracted after 15 years. So retracted means you have said something and you have said, and whatever you have said is not true. So that is a retracted. So NASA's arsenic life claim retracted after 15 years. Recent development marks the formal retraction of a controversial 2010 NASA funded study. They claimed discovery of a microbe, and that one is a GFAZ1. GFAZ1, which is capable of substituting arsenic for phosphorus in its DNA. Arsenic for phosphorus in a DNA. So the initial announcement suggested radical revision of biology and hinted at alien like life chemistry, new like life chemistry. So, however, after years of survey scrutiny and it failed replication, it failed. Replication is totally failed. The scientific community and the general science withdraw the paper. They have taken the paper. This event marks challenges in scientific communication, peer review, and interdisciplinary research. What are the background of NASA's arsenic life claim? So in 2010, researchers studied Mono Lake in California, and they reported finding a bacteria. That bacteria could incorporate arsenic, a toxic element, instead of a phosphorus in its DNA. So DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, it is made up of a nucleic acid, then sugar, then phosphates, it's made up of phosphorus. So according to that bacteria is made up of a arsenic instead of phosphorus. So this claim, if true, would have rewritten fundamental biological principles. This claim, if it would be true, if true, would have rewritten fundamental biological principles. So this announcement received widespread media attention and sparked excitement also about alternative biochemistries and astrobiology. So these are about the background of NASA's arsenic life claim, which is retracted after 15 years. About so lots of scientific scrutiny and criticism soon after publication, experts are raised doubts. Chemists pointed out arsenate's nature is a chemical instability in water. Biologists insisted phosphorus was very important for life. for every livelihood. So attempts to replicate the result by multiply independent labs failed to find the multiple independent labs. They failed to find arsenic in the DNA of bacteria GFAJ1. So instead, the microbe appeared to tolerate low phosphorus, but still required it. Instead, in that microbe, there appeared to tolerate there is a presence of low phosphorus, but still it required it. This finding undermined the original claim. So 15 years after publishing the explosive but long criticized paper claiming to describe a microbe that could substitute arsenic for phosphorus or phosphate in its chemical makeup. So Science is retracting the articles, is taking out this article, citing expanded criteria for retraction. So this is about the Science has retracted a 2010 paper describing a strain of bacteria that purportedly substitute arsenic for phosphorus. So this they have retracted, they have taken it out. So the role of peer review and public debate that times that take place, the bacteria ZFAZ1 paper became a case study in both formal and informal peer review. So this GFAZ1 paper, it became a case study both in formal and informal peer review. While the journal's initial review process accepted the initial review accepted the paper. Public platforms like blogs, social media played an important role in challenging these findings. This post publication scrutiny demonstrated how science can be self correcting. So, this post publication scrutiny and emphasizing how science can be self correcting, but also revealed tension between scientific communication and media hype. It also creates a tension between scientific communication and media hype. So the journal Science delayed retraction despite contradictory evidence, citing the need for further research is needed rather than editorial action. So they cited that there is a need for further research rather than editorial action. So recently, shifting editorial standards and ongoing confusion led to formal retraction, led to formal taken out. So critics noted that NASA's promotion style may have contributed to early hype and public misunderstanding. So this case exposed weakness in interdisciplinary peer review, where experts from different fields hold varying assumption, varying thinking, varying overview and discussion and decision. So, but there is an impact on science and researchers. These episodes serve as a cautionary tale, cautionary story about the risk of bold claims without any strong evidence. It also illustrate the delicate balance between it also inform the delicate balance between encouraging scientific innovation and maintaining rigorous standards. So there are some border lessons on scientific process. The GFAZ1 saga put stress on that science advances through trial, error, and debate. So it goes through trial, error, then debate. So retraction a part of self-correction, but must be handled transparently to preserve trust. It must be handled openly to protect trust. They can also mark the need for improved communication between scientists, media, and the public to avoid premature conclusion and hypes. It is very important to avoid premature conclusion and hype. Next is about NASA's TRACER mission. NASA's TRACER mission recently launched to study how Earth's magnetic shield protect the planet from space weather effects. How Earth's magnetic shield protection layers protect the planet from space weather effects. The twin satellites aim to understand magnetic reconnection, which is a key process in space weather that influences phenomena such as aurora and satellite disruptions. So, Tracer will operate this NASA Tracer mission will operate in low Earth orbit, which is passing through the polar cups where solar winds interacts with Earth's magnetosphere. So about launch and deployments, Tracer was launched aboard at SpaceX Falcon and rocket from California Vandenberg Space Force Base. Along with Tracers, the three small NASA satellite Antenna, EPIC, PEXT, and REAL were deployed to test new technology and collect scientific data. So communication with both tracer satellite was established within hours after deployments, and thus mission entered a 4-week commissioning phase to check instrument and system before starting its main scientific operation. About magnetic reconnection and space weather, magnetic reconnection occurs when the solar wind disturb Earth's magnetic field, causing magnetic lines to break and reconnect. So this process release energy and allows charged particle to enter the Earth atmosphere. So it drives space weather effects like auroras and can disturb satellites and GPS system. So tracer will observe thousands of reconnection event by flying in a sun synchronous orbits. It fly in sun synchronous orbits through the polar cups, which are funnel-shaped opening in the magnetosphere. So about the space launches, NASA's tracer mission. Scientific objects, there is some scientific objectives and methods also. The tuned satellites will measure changes in magnetic field and electric field during reconnection events. Having two spacecraft allows scientists to compare data closely and track how recognition evolve over times. Having tools, and this approach helps reveal the speed and dynamics of magnetic explosion over Earth. So this mission will run for 12 months. This mission will run for 12 months, which provides detailed information about solar terrestrial interaction. Collaboration with other mission, it collaborate with NASA mission studying related phenomena. TRESL will work alongside other NASA mission which study related phenomena. The magnetospheric multi-scale mission observe reconnection from higher orbits, complementing tracer low Earth orbit data. So MMS observe reconnection from higher orbit, whereas tracers observe low Earth orbit data. Mission like Punch and EZIE also monitor solar wind and atmospheric interaction. Mission leadership and management. The tracer mission is led by David Miles at the University of Iowa and managed by Southwest Research Institute in Texas. So NASA's Heliophysics Explore Program Office, which oversee this project, instrument development, which is led by teams at the University of California, Los Angeles, Berkeley. They are focusing on magnetic and electric field measurements. Next news about new panda like sea squid species discovered. New panda, the sea squid species discovered, which appear resemble like new panda like. So recent marine exploration near Komezimal Island have revealed a strikingly unique sea creature. This unique sea creature is named Clavellina ossipande. This small, very small sea squid resemble as a panda due to its unusual black and white pattern. It has black and white pattern, so it resemble a panda. The discovery marks advancement in marine biology and the growing role of citizen scientists. Discovery and identification. The species was first notified by divers in 2022 and depth was between 5 to 20 meters, 5 and 20 meters. So about this new panda like sea squid species, unlike typical sea squids which belongs to Clavellin ossipande, displays white bands resembling bones which are actually blood vessel in its gills. So Clavellin ossipande displays, it has white bands in his body which look like bones, which appears like its bone, which are actually blood vessel in its gills. Actually, it is blood vessel in its gills, but it is resemble like bones. Photos shared online sparked scientific interest. There is subsequent genetic testing is going on this new species within the genus is Clavellin. Species is ossipande. It is measuring only about 20 millimeters long. It has a compact body with contrasting dark and light patches. It look like a panda, as which is an optical illusion created by its internal anatomy in internal features. Despite it is a very small size, the creature's pattern is highly visible and unusual among various marine invertebrates. So, what are the ecological importance of this species? Clabilin ossipandi, important in coral reef ecosystem because it acts as a filter feeder. But what is meaning of filter feeder? Filter feeder means because it acts as a coral reef ecosystem as a filter feeder. It means it cleans sea water by removing bacteria, microalgae, help in maintaining clean water, which is essential for important for coral to photosynthesize and important for fish, different type of fish habitats. So these contribution to coral reef health and biodiversity, although it remains fixed in one place, as although it's Cavallina ossipans remain fixed in one place after maturity. When it get matures, it remain fixed in one place. Its ecological impact significance is significant because it act as a filter feeder for coral reef ecosystem. Now, about evolutionary and ecological biological context, the species belong to the phylum Chordata. These species belong to the phylum Chordata, so making it a distant relative of vertebrates, including we humans. So belong to phylum Chordata and distinct relative of vertebrates, including humans. So its sedentary lifestyle means it is fixed in one place. So its sedentary lifestyle contrasts with many chordates but reflects an evolutionary adaptation to reef environments. The unique coloration, it has unique color, raises question about its function. Possibly it's for camouflage, predator deterrence, or ultraviolet protection, though no definite explanation though no till now there is a no definite explanation exists yet. Role of citizen science in this discovery puts stress on the importance of non-professional diverse and enthusiasts in the field of modern scientific research. So it shared images online about this. They shared images online to locate and study the species. So this collaboration between amateurs and experts, there is a collaboration between amateur and experts, exemplifies citizen science growing influence in biodiversity, documentation and conservation. Both amateur and expert peoples are growing influence in biodiversity, documentation and conservation. What are about the scientific validation and publication? So researcher conducted detailed morphological studies and DNA analysis to differentiate, to distinguish Clavellina ossipante from related species. So these findings were published in the journal, and the name of the journal is Species Diversity in 2025. So this formal recognition add to the known marine biodiversity and encourages further exploration of reef ecosystem. Next news about global tobacco epidemic. Global tobacco epidemic. So it continues to pose a severe health threat in the year 2025. Because of it, there is a severe many health problem in the year 2000 in this year. So despite decades of awareness, giving so many too many awareness, tobacco is consuming millions of lives annually. So women face unique health challenges linked to even though women, not only male, women are also facing different types of health challenges which are linked to tobacco. So neonicotine products, tobacco consists of nicotine. So neonicotine products complicate control efforts in human health. Effective policies remain important to curb tobacco-related deaths worldwide, to reduce tobacco-related deaths world. So new policy are must be given to curb to protect tobacco-related deaths worldwide. Current global tobacco impacts. What are the impact of global tobacco epidemics, which causes many health problems and even it is fatal? So tobacco use causes around 7.3 million deaths yearly. Around 7.3 million deaths yearly. Over the past 30 years, tobacco-related deaths have reached 200 million. So smoking is a leading cause of chronic severe obstructive lung diseases, pulmonary diseases, and lung cancer. So many of these diseases are preventable. So this tobacco industry still aggressively market products, increasing the global health burden. So women and tobacco, what about the women and tobacco? Unique health challenges. Women suffer disproportionately from tobacco effects, although female smoking rates are declining, reducing past high uses causes rising diseases risk. Lung cancer kills more women than breast cancer in many nations. So it is very important to note then lung cancer kills more women because of consuming tobacco than breast cancer in many nations. Women are more vulnerable to secondhand smoke, accounting which is accounting for over 64% of related deaths. So policy focus on women, specifically focus on women, which is essential to prevent future health crises. So WHO report on global tobacco epidemics. They use claims over 7 million lives a year, monitoring MPOWER, monitoring tobacco use and preventing policies, protecting people from tobacco smoke with smoke-free year legislation, offering help to quit tobacco, to leave tobacco use, warning about the dangers, different dangers of tobacco, and pack labels and mass media, enforcing bans on tobacco advertising, promotion, and sponsorship, and raising taxes on tobacco. Raising taxes on tobacco. So, emergence of new tobacco and nicotine products. E-cigarettes and heated tobacco products have flooded markets. There are too many e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products are available in markets. Have flooded markets. So their health effects remain unclear due to limited research, very less research on e-cigarettes and heated tobacco. So these products specifically target youth, increasing nicotine addiction risk. Youth are getting addiction of nicotine. So electronic nicotine delivery system can reverse progress in reducing tobacco use. The rise of these products demands urgent regulatory attention. There are challenges in tobacco control implementation. Approximately 2.3 billion people lack protection from effective tobacco policies. Many countries have not fully implemented WHO's Empower strategies, which I have illustrated in the previous slide. So many countries have not fully implemented WHO's Empower strategies. Indirect benefits like reduced secondhand smoke exposure and improved birth outcomes are often underestimated in assessments. What are effective tobacco control measures? So there is a effective tobacco control measure in that the most important measure is to raise tobacco taxes. A $1 increase per cigarette pack can raise prices by 42%, and it helps in reducing consumption by 18%. However, only 1.2 billion people live in countries with best practice tax labels. Smoke-free laws reduce hospitalization and deaths by up to 17%, protecting it may protect 2.6 billion people. Graphic health warnings cover over 5.1 billion people worldwide. So bans on they should put also bans on advertisement, different types of advertisement, which are more common in low income countries. Then again, combined with the WHO Empower strategies, which can help in reducing adult smoking rates by over approximately 7%. So, what are the policy priorities and public health gains? Main focus on women and youth is important. Addressing smokeless tobacco use adds public health benefits. Stronger regulation on new nicotine products are very important. So increased funding and global cooperation can improve this policy adoption and enforcement. Now, next news about new white sea slug species discovered in Indonesia. Recent research has led to the discovery of formal description of two new what sea slug species which was found in the waters of North Sulawesi, Indonesia. So these species named Phylidia ovata and Phylidia fongi. Phylidia ovata, Phylidia fonzi, which is enrich the unknown marine, which is found in the unknown marine biodiversity of Indo-Pacific region. So these findings show the importance of citizen science and international collaboration in uncovering hidden species. So recent research has led to the discovery of two new Wat sea slug species in the waters of North Sulawesi, Indonesia. About this discovery and identification, five women scientists from Germany, Indonesia, and Wales identified these species. Points should be noted. Five women scientists from Germany, Indonesia, Wales identified this species. Philidia veta was recognized after 23 years of underwater photography records and across Indonesia, Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, Australia. Phylidia fonchi is smaller and harder to find. It's very difficult to find. Was documented mainly in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Andaman Sea. Both species belong to the family. Family name is a Phyllidae, known for because of their bright colors and chemical defense derived from sponge prey. They have chemical defenses from sponge prey. What are the characteristics of Halidia ovata? It is a medium size, up to 5 centimeters. Its name reflects its egg-like shape, ovata, egg-like shape and patterns. Despite frequent sighting by photographers and divers, it was only classified as a new species based on the specimen collected in North Sulawesi. Its unique morphology and vibrant appearance distinguishes from the other wart sea slugs. What are the characteristics of Phylidia fongi? Size is 16 millimeters. It was named to honor Dr. Fonzi Keligis, which was an Indonesian researcher who contributed to biodiversity studies. The species was describing using a single holotype species as a single holotype specimen which underwent a detailed anatomical examination, which has gone under different types of anatomical examination. It is more commonly Phylidia fonzi common in Andaman Sea, but also found in Indonesian and Malaysian waters. What are the rules in this discovery? So photographs and data shared on platforms like iNaturalist, Facebook, and specialized sea slug forums provided crucial evidence of this discovery. So these citizen science contribution allowed researcher to identify new species and understand their distribution despite limited physical specimen. What are the significance of marine biodiversity? North Sulawesi hosts around 350 sea slug species, with nearly 100 believed to be till now undiscovered or unnamed. Adding these two species marks the rich but still partially unexplored marine biodiversity of the region. What sea slug chemical defenses and vivid different colors make them important for ecological study and also helpful for in marine conservation efforts. Next news about India's satellites instructional television experiments. So India's space journey in 2025 continues to inspire with renewed focus on practical application, with utmost focus on significant focus on practical application. The 15th anniversary of the satellite instruction television experiment. Now, satellite instruction television experiments, it is because of its 50th anniversary, it marks India's pioneering role in using different types of space technology for the benefit of society. So SITE, satellite instruction television experiment, brought educational television to rural India, to village through satellite broadcasting. So it set the foundation for India's space program to prioritize societal development for society development alongside with the scientific advancement. About background and significance of satellite instruction television experiments. It was launched on August 1975 with collaboration between India and United States. It used NASA's ATS-6 six satellite to beam educational and development program to 2,400 remote villages across 6 diverse states of India's. So the project targeted backward districts, including unelectrified villages when there is no electricity. So TV sets were installed in community centers, schools, panchayat ghar for free public viewing, transcending caste and class barriers. Site was the first large-scale direct-to-home satellite broadcasting experiments, bringing television to village area to rural India long before urban areas had widespread access. So, about technological and operational innovation, sites employed a 10-foot diameter antenna and electronic converters to receive satellite signals. It was designed and manufactured in India, while the satellite and launch were provided by the United States. Satellite and launch were provided by the United States, but designed and manufactured in India, equipped rigorously, achieving lower downtime than urban TV sets, and it is India's first district level rural TV station, first launch in Kheda, Gujarat. This station became a model for expanding television via low power transmitters. So, first time in TV station in Kheda, Gujarat, which exhibits help in expanding television via low power with the help of low power transmitters. The project combined cutting edge technology with grassroots participation. So about program content and social impacts, content was tailored to local language and needs. There is improved that it was given in local language and needs. There is given agricultural programs to introduce modern farming technologies, which is beneficial for farmers. So many educational shows are also going on, which supports primary school teaching and teacher training program also, which is reaching approximately 45,000 teachers who combine in person and broadcast sessions. There is a national program which was also broadcast daily to all 6 states. It was broadcast daily to all 6 states, that it was a national program. So social scientists studied sites impact extensively, with some living in villages for over a year. So this project encouraged social inclusion, community engagement. So it won international acclaim also, in international flame also, including UNESCO First Ruler Communication Prize. So it's got UNESCO First Ruler Communication Prize. What are the philosophy and legacy of this program? Site embodied the vision of Vikram Sarabhai, who was ISRO's founder, who emphasized knowledge creation and its practical use. The project reflected India's philosophy of self-reliance, self-dependence, complemented by international cooperation. So this approach continue with mission like the upcoming NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar NISAR satellite. So, site success laid the groundwork for India's space application in education, agriculture, communication, reinforcing space technology as a tool for overall development, for holistic development. Next news is about the AI models achieve gold models at International Math Olympiad. Recent advancement in the field of artificial intelligence have marked a historic milestone. Recently, AI models developed by OpenAI and Google DeepMind, it achieved gold medal level score at the International Mathematical Olympiad. So these prestigious contents challenges high school students worldwide with complex math problems. For the first time, AI system have matched the performance of top human competitors under official exam condition. So about the International Math Olympiad explain, IMO is an annual global competition since 1959. Participants have to face 2 sessions, each lasting 4.5 hours. Each session requires solving 3 difficult problems from algebra, combinatorics, geometries, and number theory. Each problem carries 7 points with a maximum total of 42 points. And at last, gold medals are awarded to those scoring above a set threshold. What are the threshold is set, which was 35 points in 2025. Artificial intelligence performance and techniques. So the two AI models solve 5 out of 6 problems, scoring 35 points each. Unlike typical large language models, these AI systems use advanced reasoning techniques. So they work through problem step by step before reaching answer. So Google models, Gemini Deep Think uses parallel thinking to explore multiple solutions simultaneously, hand by hand. OpenAI models verified by former IMO medalist also displays stock reasoning. They displayed strong reasoning, but has not yet been officially certified by. But it has not yet been officially certified by IMO. India won 3 gold medals, 2 silver and 1 bronze at IMO 2025. So one Indian gold medalist outscored the AI model by 2 points. Indian participant noted that AI, artificial intelligence, excel at pattern recognition. So AI expert in pattern recognition and memorizing problem types. However, AI lacks the creativity and emotional experience because it is a machine. So AI lacks the creativity, emotional experience that human participants bring. So certain novel problems requiring new ideas remain challenging for it is remain challenging for AI. What are the significance of AI achievements? This breakthrough shows rapid, fast AI progress in mathematical reasoning. Previous AI system required human help to translate problems into formal languages and took longer to compute to give answers. Now AI can generate rigorous proofs directly from natural language within the exam time limits. So these are the advancements. So these could impact research areas like cryptography, space exploration by solving unsolved mathematical problems. So there are some limitation and future prospect also. AI model still shows zagged intelligence, struggling with simple question and inconsistent reasonings. Researchers caution against overestimating AI current abilities. Human creativity and intuition remain important in mathematics. So AI will not able to surpass the human creativity and intuition. Experts foresee AI as a tool for checking proofs and brainstorming rather than replacing mathematics. But it is helpful in Olympiad training, similar to how it helps chess players. Next news about Comet AI browser. So the launch of the Comet, an artificial intelligence first web browser. The launch of Comet, an artificial intelligence first web browser by Perplexity. It marks shift in internet uses in 2025. So it is designed to delegate web tasks to artificial intelligence agents. This Comet promises a new browsing experiences. It provides a new browsing experiences where user interact less with website and more with intelligent assistant that act on that behave on their behalf. So user interact less with website and more with intelligent assistant that act on their behalf. So currently in the early access under the Perplexity Max plan, Comet is shaping the future of web browsing through automation and contextual understanding. With the help of automation and contextual understanding. Background and purpose of Comet. Comet was developed to overcome limitation of traditional web browser and AI tools embedded within them. So it's used to overcome limitation of traditional browser. Unlike browsers, they rely on clouds. Comet AI browser depend on cloud-based agent or extension. So Comet is a standalone application which is built on the Chromium frameworks, Comet is built on Chromium frameworks, which give its compatibility with popular Chrome extension user setting while maintaining full control over AI integration. The browser AI isn't a deeply embedded, allowing seamless interaction across tabs and services without repeated login or manual data transfer. So save time also. About core technology, so Comet use a blend of advanced large language models such as GPT-4.0 and Cloud 4.0 Sonnet alongside Perplexity proprietary Sona models. So the AI can understand user context locally. It can understand user context, user information locally, which enables it to perform complex tasks like scheduling meetings, comparing products, or summarizing content without switching tabs. So, this local context access provides faster and more secure interaction. About key features about this Comet AI is agentic browsing, integrated assistant, contextual understanding, cross-platform action, video and article summaries. So these are the key features. Pause the video and read all the features. Then about the significance and impact, Comet signals a major evolution in web browsing, moving from manual navigation to artificial intelligence-driven navigation. It is a main advantage. This is particularly relevant in an era overwhelmed by artificial intelligence generated content and information overload. By automating routine tasks and filtering relevant information, Comet improves productivity and user experience. It could redefine how individuals and enterprises interact with the internet, making browsing more efficient, more easy, and goal oriented. There are some limitation of this Comet AI also. Uh, Currently, Comet is available only under the Perplexity Max subscription at $200 per month. So it is expensive. Access is invite only and will be gradually expanded. It will be gradually expanded. The high because of the high cost and limited availability, its adoption is difficult. However, competition from major players like Google and OpenAI may encourage Perplexity to introduce more accessible plans in the futures. Next news about human induced earthquakes. Recent studies show the increasing frequency of earthquakes which is caused by the human activities. These quakes, known as the human induced earthquakes, which arise from action that alter the stress and strain on Earth's crust. Because of the human activity, there is a stress and a strain created on Earth's crust. So, India, among other countries, is witnessing such seismic events, which is linked to groundwater extraction, dam construction, and energy production methods. So, understanding these processes, which is important for managing different types of risk in earthquake prone regions, the area which is very affected than earthquakes, more prone to earthquake. What are the about human induced earthquakes? So human induced earthquakes result from because of the human activities which disturb the earth crust. So these include mining, groundwater extraction, dam impoundments, fluid injection into the ground, and large scale construction. It causes the human induced earthquakes, and these activities load unload the crust repeatedly continuously, causing stress strain to build between tectonic plates. This strain can trigger seismic activity in vulnerable zones, earthquake zone prone zones. So about groundwater extraction and seismicity in India, research in the National Capital Region shows a rise in shallow earthquakes between 2003 and 2012, which is coinciding with drop in the water table. It means there is a drop in the water table. So seismic activity declined after water levels stabilized post 2014. The Gangetic plains where groundwater depletion is severe. Groundwater depletion is more in Gangetic plains due to irrigation needs, which faces similar risk of earthquake, human-induced earthquakes. So these are about the human-induced adding mass, removing mass, fluid injection. These are the cause of human-induced earthquakes. Dam reservoir and earthquake risk also. The 1967 Koengar quake in Maharashtra happened, which killed over 180 people, which is linked to water loading from the Konya Dam. So similar seismic activity has been recorded near the Periyar Dam in Kerala. Same has reported in near the Pula Periyar Dam in Kerala. So regulation on dam filling and emptying as seen in the United States are recommended to manage such risk in India as well. So there are some dam reservoir and earthquake risk also happen in 1967 in Squengar quake in Maharashtra and same observed in Mulia Periyar Dam in Kerala. About energy extraction and seismic activity. So India has 56 fracking sites across 6 states, which are earthquake prone region. Region like Palghar in Maharashtra have reported earthquakes possibly linked to fluid migration because of fluid migration. So these increasing seismic monitoring is needed. Seismic monitoring is important to track such isolated plain deformations. About it also human induced earthquake related to climate change and seismic modulation. So melting glacier reduce pressure on tectonic plates, triggering earthquakes in polar regions, changing rainfall patterns because of human activity and global warmings. It also causes sudden water loading on or drought condition affecting stress on falls. The Western Ghat also experiencing tremors, which is linked to heavy rainfall, while droughts have reactivated faults elsewhere, such as in California. So these are about the climate change and seismic modulation, which are related with the because of the human activities. Now about the risk management and scientific monitoring, how to manage its risk and scientific monitoring. So earthquake risk from because of human activities are only in fault zones or area of plate deformation. So managing groundwater extraction and dam operation is very important to reduce such type of risk, and it is also crucial for early detection and understanding. So establishing dense seismic network is very important. Expert caution against attributing all seismic events slowly to human causes, and these activities may only accelerate or delay natural tectonic process. Next news is about Skill India Assistant. The Skill India Assistant is an artificial intelligence powered chatbot, which is designed to enhance access to skilling and employment services across India. So, skill means to give employment to skill different peoples across India. So, it is developed by Meta and NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation. So, SIA Skill India Assistant uses advanced conversational artificial intelligence to provide personalized support through WhatsApp. Through WhatsApp, personalized support it provides through WhatsApp. So this initiative aims to promote distinct inclusion, digital inclusion, and improve service delivery in the skilling ecosystem, especially for rural and undeserved population. It is specifically to improve services to skilled people which is residing in rural, which belongs to rural and undeserved population. So artificial intelligence digital skilling support, it is Skill India Assistant is built on Meta's open source language large language model Llama. Meta's open source large language model, it is built on this. So it offers tailored course recommendation, locates nearby training centers, provides job listing match to user skills based on the user skills, and conduct different types of interactive quizzes with on-demand doubt clearing. So the chatbots delivers a personalized individual experience to user, helping them navigate to get skilling opportunities efficiently effectively. So it is a multi-platform and multilingual access through the India Digital Hub and WhatsApp. It support communication in English, Hindi, and English, both English, Hindi, combined English. So user can interact via text or voice, catering to varied literacy and digital proficiency levels. So this uses chatbot user friendly for diverse demographic groups. So the chatbot's design focuses on inclusivity and scalability. So it operates 24 by 7 hours, ensuring continuous help, continuous assistance by leveraging WhatsApp. SIA reaches users in rural areas, village areas with limited, where there is a limited internet speed and basic smartphones. So this low bandwidth compatibility removes barriers to digital access, and it promotes equitable skill development across the India. So MSD has launched a comprehensive awareness campaign also with the help of social media platforms to encourage youth and other target groups to use Skill India assistant. So this campaign marks the chatbots features and different its benefits, aiming to increase adoption and engagement across the country. So SIA supports user with disabilities and those from rural region by offering voice and text interaction modes. So it is very important features that it supports users and the user which are which has disabilities and a user from rural regions with the help of voice and text interaction modes. So it has multilingual interference features which is given in language in that there is a no barrier about language. It is compatible with low end devices and low internet bandwidth, makes it accessible to wide range of users. Next news about air pollution linked to increased dementia risk. Because of there is a large amount of population increasing, pollution increasing, and increasing dementia risk also. So recent research from Cambridge University marks link between long term air pollution exposure and dementia risk. This large scale study reviewed 51 investigation involving over 29 million people exposed to air pollutants for at least 1 year. So 51 investigation taken place, and it involves over 29 million peoples. They exposed to air pollutants for at least 1 year. So it found a clear and a statistically association between common pollutants and the likelihood of developing dementia. Because of the pollutant, cause of dementia, brain problem is increasing. So the study focused on three main pollutants: PM 2.5 nitrogen dioxide, soot black carbon. PM 2.5 consists of fine particles less than 2.5 micrometers in diameters. So these particles mainly come from vehicle emission and thermal power plants. Nitrogen dioxide come from mainly from vehicle emission and thermal power plants. For every 10 microgram per cubic meters increase in PM 2.5 exposure, dementia risk rose by 70%. Nitrogen dioxide produced by burning fossil fuels in vehicles and industries increase dementia risk by 3% per 10 microgram per meter cube. Soot, a component of PM 2.5 from exhaust and wood, because of exhaust and wood burning, soot is coming. It also raising dementia risk by 13% per 1 microgram per meter cube. So these are the figures which show a link between the dose response relationship. So does air pollution increase the risk of dementia? It's increasing after the research and investigation. One of three risk factors for dementia are related to heart health. The heart-brain for connection also. It's so a strong link between air pollution and heart diseases, cardiovascular diseases. Experts agree that because of the heart-brain link, air pollution could also increase dementia risk. So these are the dementia risk. Gradually it is increasing. Now until we know more, you can still benefit your health. So there is given about the we have to limit use of. For this we have to reduce how much use. We have to use vehicle less. We have to move by bicycle. We have to move by our feet, so like this. And we have to limit use of wood burning stoves or gas cookers. Citiers use the Citier app to walking, to plan walking, cycling route, use bicycle. So check for alerts of high polluting days. And these are the to protect yourself from pollutants. So reducing exposure to air pollution, if you reduce exposure to air pollutants, there is a less damage to blood vessel, few sign of damage to brain tissue, few changes in the brain linked to dementia. So mechanism behind pollution-induced dementia is, two scientists suggested that air pollution triggers dementia through because of the brain inflammation and oxidative stress. When oxidative stress occurs, when harmful oxygen react overwhelm in the body's defenses and causing cellular damage. So harmful oxygen, when we inhale and it goes inside our body, so it causes different types of cell damage. So pollutant may enter the brain directly or affect it indirectly via lung, because it moves through the lung itself. So it affect our brain and effect, and it goes through our lungs and cardiovascular, through our heart. So it gradually increasing dementia risks. So both inflammation and oxidative stress are known contributor to dementia onset and progression. Global and public health implications. So dementia affects, if the person is suffering from dementia, we have learned in the previous videos about dementia. So now I'm not going to explain dementia again. So dementia affects memory, thinking, and daily functioning. So it affects memory, it affects thinking, daily function, day-to-day life, so worsening over time, and mainly it's mainly affect older people. So WHO estimated 57 million dementia cases worldwide in 2021, projected to rise to 150 million by 2050, which is very alarming. So increasing air pollution, especially in developing nation, because they are using more vehicles and other advanced technology. So it could accelerate this trend, increase of air pollutants. So WHO data revealed that 99% of the global population breathes air exceeding safe pollution limits. 99% of global population are breathing air which is exceeding safe pollution limits, with the heaviest burden on low and middle income countries. Policy and about the policy and prevention strategies, urban planning, transport policies, environmental regulation, and this must be enhanced to reduce air pollution exposure. There must be coordinated efforts across disciplines which can help reduce dementia risk by improving air quality and public health outcomes, which is a very important for human health across the globe. Next is about National Medical Commission guideline on live surgery broadcast. National Medical Commission guideline on live surgery broadcast. So National Medical Commission issued comprehensive guidelines to regulate the conduct and broadcast of live surgery. So these rules aim to protect, it is most importantly aim to protect patient safety, patient health, patient life, maintain ethical standards, and ensure educational value without commercial exploitation. There should be no commercial exploitation. So this guideline restrict lives broadcast to a specific condition and help in promoting recorded videos and simulation as safer alternatives. So what are the scope and purpose of these guidelines? NMC, National Medical Commission, mandates that live surgery broadcasts serve only educational purposes. Promotion of surgeons, hospital, or medical products during live product is strictly prohibited. Surgeon must not have any financial interest in the equipment or devices used. The guidelines encourage recorded videos, wet labs, cadaveric and simulation-based training for stabilized or high-risk surgeries. About patient selection and consent is also required. Patient chosen for live broadcast must be medically, physically fit with no contradiction. High-risk cases, incomplete investigation, or unusual anatomy are excluded during patient selection and consent. Financial incentive for patient participation are banned. It should be banned. Informed consent must be obtained by the operating surgeon or team, explaining the educational intent, risk, anonymity, and the right to withdraw consent anytime. The patient can withdraw their consent anytime. So informed consent must be obtained by operating surgeon or team. Explain the educational intent. They must explain the risk, anonymity, and the rights to withdraw consent anytime. Patients should be enrolled in insurance covering unforeseen incidents, and all complication must be managed free of cost. So these are about the patient selection and cost according to the National Medical Commission guidelines. So operational protocols and safety measures, live surgery must take place in accredited hospitals with full pre-operative, operative and post-operative facilities. A moderator may also offer separate commentary. High risk procedures should preferably be recorded rather than broadcast live. The operating surgeon may provide stepwise commentary but cannot interact with the audience during the procedure to maintain focus on patient safety. That is a prime importance. Next is about the roles and responsibility. So organizers must ensure patient safety, patient confidentiality, patient's compliance with ethical standards. Explicit written consent is very mandatory. Surgeon must prioritize patient welfare and be involved in pre-operative discussion, post-operative care for at least 24 hours. That is very important. An apex committee oversees adherence to all these guidelines. There is some restriction and ethical considerations. Patient identity confidentiality is paramount. It's paramount to keep the patient identity confidential. Surgeries must follow established standard procedures. The surgery must be happen in standard procedures. Unedited recording of procedures are to be preserved for at least 2 years unless involved in litigation if there is any problems. So insurance coverage should be explained to patients, and any surgery related complication are to be handled without charge. There are some approval and oversights. Government hospital require approval from the dean, while private hospitals seek consent from the state medical council. Professional association are tasked with self-regulation. Professional association are tasked with self-regulation to prevent misuse of live broadcast for promotion or commercial interest. Next news about in India test ULP-ZM V3. India achieved major breakthrough or milestone in defense technology with the successful test firing of UAV launch missile ULPGM V3. It was conducted at the National Open Area Range in Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, and this trial marks a major boost to India's missile capabilities. So the DRDO led the development and testing, reflecting India's growing self-dependence in advanced defense system. ULPZM-3 V3 ULPZM V3 is a precision guided missile launched for unmanned, there is no man in there, for unmanned aerial vehicles. UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. There is no person in that missile. It is designed for high accuracy strikes on ground target while minimizing risk to personnel. So it has advanced technology such as imaging infrared seekers and dual thrust propulsion system. So this missile suits modern battlefield demands. It is helpful in modern battlefield demands with its lightweight and versatile design. Development and indigenous design. About development and design, it is entirely developed in India by DRDO's Terminal Ballistic Research Laboratory and other partners. So these align with India's push for self-dependence in defense technology. The involvement of MSMEs, startup and industry partners marks the growing defense industrial ecosystem in the country. So about ULP-ZM V3 stands out because of its lightweight construction and laser guided precision. It's help in defeating explosive reacting armor on tanks. It shows compatibility with various UAV platforms which offers strategic flexibility. So it helps in it can be operated in difficult terrains by individual soldiers. Individual soldier can operate it in difficult terrains. So help in enhancing tactical development option. What are the significance of National Open Area Range? National Open Area Range in Kurnool is a premier test facility for cutting-edge defense technology. So this area is specifically for cutting-edge defense technologies, known in Kurnool. So it has hosted trial for high-energy laser-based directed energy weapons that neutralize UAVs and drone swarms. Strategic impact. So it adds a new dimension to India's aerial strike capabilities and increase India's air strike capabilities, drone launch precision missile, which reduce human risk, human loss, and enable rapid, accurate responses in combat in fight. So this system enhances India's deterrence and operational reach. So it also signals India's progress in integrating unmanned platforms with advanced weaponry crucial for future warfare scenarios. Next news is about mycorrhizal fungi hotspots. Recent studies reveal that over 90% of mycorrhizal fungi hotspots lie outside protected areas. So these fungi are important for nutrient cycling, carbon sequestration, and plant health. So despite their importance, they have been largely ignored in climate and conservation policy. They are not given importance in climate and conservation policies. The Society for the Protection of Underground Networks, SPUN, has created a digital atlas. They have created SUPN has created a digital atlas to map their global distribution, to map mycorrhizal fungal global distributions. So it helps to raise awareness and promote the inclusion of importance of mycorrhizal fungi in environmental agendas. So what are the role of mycorrhizal fungi in ecosystem? Mycorrhizal fungi live symbiotically with more than 80% of plant species. They absorb nutrients from soil, and that nutrient is phosphorus. They also absorb carbon dioxide released by plant roots, storing about 13 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually. So two important things: first, to absorb phosphorus from the soil, carbon dioxide also. Then this amount equals roughly one third of global fossil emission. So it's help in capturing CO2. So it's a roughly one third of global fossil fuel emission. It is help in capturing CO2. Mostly it is beneficial. This fungi support, in turn, it supports soil health, plant growth, and ecosystem stability, human health also. So what are the underground atlas and its significance? As Society for Protection of Underground Networks uses 25,000 geolocated soil samples. So they uses 25,000 geolocated soil samples and over 2.8 billion fungal DNA sequences from 130 countries. So machine learning predict the richness and rarity of two main types of mycorrhizal fungi. First is ectomycorrhizal and second is abersacular mycorrhizal. So the atlas produces high resolution maps identifying global hotspots of fungal diversity and endemicity. So they shows major fungal reservoirs across savannas, tropical forest, boreal forest, and temperate regions. This is the image of mycorrhizal fungal root and fungi. Global distribution of mycorrhizal fungi is a hotspot occur mainly in Brazilian Cerrado, Southeastern Asian tropical forest, West African Union forest. So ectomycorrhizal fungi are abundant, more in number in northern forests, including Siberia, Canada, United States, and Central Europe. So these are very important for a forest ecosystem, and because it help in carbon storage and nutrients cycling. Conservation gap and policy needs. There is also more than 90% of mycorrhizal fungi hotspot are outside protected zones. They are not inside the protected zones. So current conservation plans rarely consider soil biodiversity. So this exposes them to threat from land use change and environmental degradation. So there is an urgent need to integrate fungal diversity into climate action and biodiversity policy. It should be included under biodiversity policy. There is an urgent needs. So Food and Agriculture Organization launched the Global Soil Biodiversity Observatory to monitor and protect soil life. So it provides a tiered system for measuring soil chemical, biological, and genetic properties, helping to conserve soil. And it creates FAO's Global Soil Partnership, further promotes soil health projects worldwide, linking soil biodiversity with food security and climate resilience. So there is soil mapping is also there, which combining large DNA data set with machine learning, which enables to provides precise mapping of fungal communities, which is helpful for conservation and restoration efforts of mycorrhizal fungi. Next news about new wolf species, spider species discovered in Sundarban. So Geological Survey of India, new according to its in researcher in Kolkata, they identified a new spider species on Sangar Island in Sundarbans, and the discovery marked the first record of genus Piratula in India. So the species called Piratula acuminata. Piratula is genus and acuminata is a species, belong to the family Lycosidae, so commonly known as wolf spider. So this finding marks a rich but still unexplored biodiversity of Sundarban. ये Sundarban a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So about this discovery, so it is found during detailed field study on Sagar Islands, the largest island in the which Sagar Island is the largest island in the Sundarban Delta. So this identification was confirmed through meticulous morphological analysis, focusing on unique genetic structures such as acuminate basal arm of the tegular apophysis in males. There is a presence of tegular apophysis in male spider species and ovate spermatheca in female spider. So genus and family, genus is Piratula, family is species is Ecominata, which is a part of wolf spider family. Family is Lycosipidae. So unlike web building spider, wolf spider are agile ground hunters. They are agile ground hunters, means they depend on ambush tactics rather than webs to capture prey. So this genus has a wide distribution across Asia, but had not been recorded in India before this discovery. So it had not been recorded in India before this discovery. So the presence of this genus in the Sundarban expand knowledge of the region arachne diversity. About Sundarban is situated within the Sundarban Delta formed by alluvial deposit of Ganga River. About conservation and climate concern, the researcher emphasizes the importance of conservation efforts in Sundarbans. The ecosystem faces threats from climate change, rising sea levels, and human activities. So, about the ecological role of Piratula acuminata and its vulnerability is very important. So, protecting this type of important species maintain the balance of this fragile ecosystem and preserve its natural heritage for future generation is very important for its conservation. Next news about Afro-descendant lands reduce Latin America deforestation rates. Recent research reveals that Afro-descendant communities in Latin America manage lands with lower deforestation rates than national averages. So their ancestral knowledge and sustainable practices protect biodiversity and store large amount of carbon. So this marked the urgent need for legal recognition of their terrorist and inclusion in global environment policies. So Afro-descendant communities and land stewardship is Afro-descendant people make up nearly 25% of Latin Africa's population. Afro-descendant people make up nearly 25% of Latin America's population. So they are descendant from Africa's abroad during the slave trade, mainly escaped slavery and settled in remote forested region. So they develop sustainable and land management based on ancestral wisdom from Africa. So these practices have preserved forest, help in preserving, conserving forest and biodiversity for centuries. About deforestation rates means cutting of trees compared to national norms. According to 2025 study, which is published in Nature Communication, Earth and Environment, it demonstrate about deforestation under a Afro-descendant stewardship. It found deforestation was cutting of trees was 29% lower inside protected areas, 29% low inside protected areas, but 36% lower in outside them. 36% lower outside them and 55% lower along protected areas edges compared to country averages. So this shows that land act as a strong barriers against foreign loss. So biodiversity and carbon storage significance, about 57% of Afro-descendant land mark among the top 5% globally for biodiversity. So they store more than 486 million tons of irrecoverable carbon, which is very important source of life. So the backbone of life. So their land management sustains both ecological health and local communities. What are the challenges of land rights and recognition? In Brazil, 9.1 million hectares remain unrecognized, while Colombia has 1.76 million hectares without legal title. Suriname's Afro-descendant and indigenous lands total over 10.5 million hectares lacking formal recognition. So these are the challenges. So these uncertainty threatens their ability to protect these areas forest. There are immediate calls for policy and financial support is required. So integrated with ancestral practices into global climate and biodiversity policies, these policies can strengthen environmental protection worldwide. So it helps in innovating financial and economic opportunities. Also, it provides economic financial opportunities. About global environmental policy inclusion, recognizing their role is critical to achieve climate and biodiversity goals. So their deep culture and a spiritual connection to the land offers unique insight for sustainable developments. So greater political awareness is also needed to conserve these lands. Now about next news is about international court rules government climate action illegal. The International Court of Justice issued a landmark advisory. The issued International Court of Justice issued a landmark advisory opinion in July 2025, declaring that government action causing climate change are illegals. Any government action that are causing climate changes are illegal. So this ruling urges state to be held legally accountable for their greenhouse gas emissions. So, although advisory, non-binding, the opinions, greenhouse gas, the major gas, which is the harmful is CO2. So, the opinion carries moral and legal weight. It is expected to influence global climate negotiation, especially the upcoming COP30 conference in Brazil. About international court rules, which was requested by United Nations Secretary General in April 2023. So it responds to global demands, particularly from vulnerable in island nation and youth activities for a stronger legal accountability on climate change. So this is only the fifth advisory opinion in the International Court rule government's nearly 80-year advisory addressing such a global issue. What are the key legal highlights? States must adopt measures to mitigate, to reduce emission, greenhouse gas emission and adapt to climate impacts. Adapt good policy to reduce climate impacts. And Annex 1 countries under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change bear additional responsibility to lead emission reduction. Greenhouse emission reduction must be done by Annex 1 countries. The opinion reaffirmed the goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level as set by the Paris Agreements. According to the Paris Agreement, the goal of limited global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels are set by Paris Agreement. State responsibility and consequences. States causing climate harm must cease harmful action, must stop harmful action. This include restitution, compensation, satisfaction if a direct causal link to damage is proven. The ruling marked the principle of historical responsibility, which is particularly for developed countries with high past greenhouse emission. About human rights and environmental protections, the ruling also recalls commitment under the international treaties like Vienna Convention, Montreal Protocol, and the Convention on Biological Biodiversity. So it stresses cooperation among states to achieve climate goals, to protect climates, to achieve climate goals, and protect vulnerable affected populations. There are impact on global climate action. So experts consider the ICGS advisory opinion a game changer for climate diplomacy. The ruling may empower climate litigation worldwide against government and corporation failing to meet this obligation. So it renews pressure on major emitters. The major emitters countries are United States, which remain party to the UNFCCC despite withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. So there are some significance for vulnerable nations. The opinion is particularly crucial for countries at high risk from climate impacts. And these countries are South Asian states and small island developing states. So the ruling aligns with demand for loss and damage mechanism under United Nations climate talks, aiming to provide justice for those suffering the worst effect of climate change. Next is about US withdrawals from UNESCO. The United States has once again announced its withdrawal from the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization. This decision marks shift from multilateral engagement under the current administration. So these move reflect long-standing US concern over UNESCO policies and perceived geopolitical biases, particularly regarding China and Palestine. So background of US UNESCO relation: the US first left UNESCO in 1984, which citing mismanagement and anti-American bias. It rejoined in 2003 after reforms in 2017. And President Joe Biden reversed this decision in 2021, which is aiming to counter China's growing role. In 2025, withdrawal marks a turn to Trump era disengagement. So, what are the reason for withdrawal? So, U.S. official criticized UNESCO support for diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, describing them as divisive. The US also accused UNESCO of advancing Beijing's interest and promoting anti-Israel, anti-Jewish action within the organization. The agency designation of certain Jewish holy sites as Palestinian World Heritage was seen as politicizing cultural heritage. So these are the reason for withdrawal. China's expanding influences. China has increased its presence in UNESCO. China has increased its presence in UNESCO. It aims to surpass Italy in World Heritage Site designation. So Beijing uses in UNESCO to project soft power, especially in congested region like Tibet and Xinjiang. Implication for global multilateralism. US was previously the largest funder. US was previously the largest funder, contributing nearly 25% of UNESCO budget. This shift may accelerate China's dominance in cultural diplomacy and global standard setting in education and technology. This move aligns with a broader US policy of disengagement from international institution deemed misaligned with national interests. So these are the implication of global multilateralism. So China influence, the US withdrawal weakens its influence in UNESCO and removes a key counterbalance to China's growing sway. About historical context of US disengagements, so, US withdraw from UNESCO reflect broader tension in international relation. It creates broader tension in international relation because of US withdraw from UNESCO. This action underline a preference for America first policy, prioritizing sovereignty and national interest over multilateral cooperation. Past US re-entries into UNESCO were motivated by reform efforts and a strategic counterbalance to rivals. Next is about NISAR satellite launch. The NISAR satellite, a joint mission by ISRO and United States National Aeronautic and Space Administration, was successfully launched in July 2025. NISAR uses advanced dual frequency synthetic aperture radar technology which help in detecting minute change on Earth's surface with unprecedented precision. So it uses geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle. It was launched from GSLV F-16 from Sriharikota. It maps nearly all land and ice surface twice every 12 days. NISAR carries two radar systems, NASA's L-band and ISRO S-band. L-band penetrates dense vegetation and ice layers, which is important for monitoring tall trees and ice sheets. S-band focuses on shorter plants like shrubs and is important for aviation and seeping by managing fog and visibility. So together, L and S-band detect tiny surface changes such as ground deformation, soil moisture variation, and vegetation dynamics, even though clouds or darkness. So NISA's data supports different applications. It tracks glacier movement in the Himalayas, monitors fault lines shift to anticipate earthquakes, and observe agricultural cycles as well. It helps in disaster management also by improving flood, drought, and landslide forecasting. Its near real-time data benefits researchers, disaster manager, and policy makers globally. So NISAR mission exemplifies international cooperation. ISRO developed the S-band radar spacecraft, while NASA built the L-band radar and provide orbit maneuver plans. So both agencies jointly manage satellite operation and data calibration. NISAR mission include 4 phases: launch, deployment, commissioning, and science operation. So after launch, a 12-meter reflectors deploys from the satellite. The 90-day commission phase checks and caliber system. So this phase will generate ongoing data, which is important for environmental monitoring and different types of disaster management. Next is about indigenous AI development. So India is rapidly doing advancement in the field of artificial intelligence with the help of India AI mission. So the government is focused on making AI accessible and accountable for real world application also. Development of foundational AI models. India AI support the creation of indigenous large language models and smaller language models trained on Indian data sets. So there is collaboration of 4 startups: Sarvam AI, Soket AI, Ganani AI, Gun AI are developing these foundational models, which are used to encourage startups. This model will be open source to encourage different types of startups to build India specific AI application. So this mission has provision over 34,000 GPUs through the India AI compute portals. So these infrastructures support academic, startups, MSMEs, research bodies, and government agencies. India's AI database platform Alcos. Alcos offers over 1,000 curated dataset across sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, and education. So example include farmer queries from Kisan call centers, geological data, and clinical imaging for brain lesion diagnosis. So this platform also hosts 208 AI models, including text-to-speech models in Indian languages like Bengali, Kannada, promoting including AI development with strong data privacy safeguards. So the India Startups Global Program in partnership with Station F and HEC Paris helped 10 India AI startup expand into Europe. It is a major achievement. These startup focus on areas such as privacy enhancing, AI, and cybersecurity. About safe and trusted AI framework, so it engages academia, industry, startup, government in a hub and spoke model. So project focus on responsible AI themes like bias mitigation, privacy tools, AI governance testing, watermarking, deepfake detection. So India will host the AI Impact Summit in February 2026, continuing its leadership in global AI governance. So, about legal and regulatory measures, the Bharatiya Navy Sanhita, Navya Sanhita 2023 strengthen cyber crime provisions. So, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 enforces data fiduciary accountability and citizen data rights. The IT Rules 2021 impose obligation on intermediaries to remove harmful AI generated content promptly immediately. About techno-legal innovation and research, India fund R&D at premier institutions like IITs to develop AI tools for privacy protection, defect detection, and cyber security. So this model balances innovation with safety and accountability, encouraging responsible India's AI growth. Next news about ancient volcanic arc discovered beneath China. So recent research has revealed a vast volcanic arc beneath South China. So this it formed during the breakup of supercontinent Rodinia. So this discovery reshaped understanding of ancient tectonic and volcanic activity in the region. About geologically context and formation, around 800 million years ago, the Yangtze block of South China lay at Rodinia northwest edge. Tectonic shift caused it to drift toward the China Oceanic plate, and this denser oceanic crust subdues beneath the continental crust. So this subduction generated magma as the oceanic plate heated and released water. So this magma rose, forming a long volcanic arc along the subduction zone. So what about the unique feature of volcanic arc? Unlike typical narrow arc, this volcanic chain is unusually broad. It stretches 430 miles long and 30 miles wide, extending 550 miles in land. So this process creates two volcanic ridges, one near the plate boundary and second near the further inland. Detection and research methods, they found iron rich rocks and the strong magnetic signal about 4 miles below the surface. Deep borehole sample showed volcanic arc geochemical signatures. There is a presence of uranium late dating method which confirm these rocks formed between 772 and 820 million years ago. What are the significance in earth crust evolution? These volcanic rocks contribute to crust formation and mountain buildings. So this discovery suggests ancient arcs were more extensive than previously thought in South China. So some geologists propose that two volcanic belts may have formed separately. It may have formed separately and joined later, but the data offers new important information about ancient tectonics. Next is about ancient human species and evolutionary interaction. Recent research have transformed our understanding of human evolutions. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, lived alongside several ancient human species between 3 lakh and 40,000 years ago. So these species were not just neighbors but interacted and interbred with other ancestors. So that this discovery reveals a complex evolutionary history marked by diversity and interconnection. First is Neanderthal, which is considered as intelligent, cold adapted humans. Neanderthal, known as Homo neanderthalensis, which was emerged about 4 lakh years ago. So they were adapted to cold Eurasian climates with stocky bodies and large noses to warm air. So their brains were larger on average and then those of modern humans. They used tools, fire, clothing effectively. According to genetic study, they showed 1 to 2% of DNA in Europeans and Asian comes from neither Neanderthals affecting human responses. So they became this Neanderthal extinct around 40,000 years ago, but left as lasting genetic imprints. So Neanderthal and human remains, bone cartilage and human remains, come from Neanderthal. Now, cold climates contributed to the extinction of Neanderthal. Then afterward, the evolution is a Denisovians, which discovered in 2008 from finger bone in Siberia. Denisovans lived between 3 lakh and 25,000 years ago. They diverged from the Neanderthal about 5 lakh 50,000 and 7 lakh 65,000 years ago. So Denisovian inhabited diverse environment from Siberian caves to Southeast Asian forest. So genetic evidence show that they had dark skin, eyes, and hair. Remarkably, a hybrid individual shows the characteristic with one Neanderthal parent and one Denisovanian parent was found. So their DNA survives in some modern Asia and oceanic population. So Denisovanian was the first ancient hominin species to be revealed by gene alone, not by fossil classification. While placed in Homo genus, they have not yet begun a species classification as no physical description exists. So they were named after the Denisova cage in Russia, where the first fossil were found. Now about Homo naledi. Homo naledi is a small-bodied South African. These are the evolution of human, how we have Homo sapiens have come. So small-bodied South Africa species Homo naledi was discovered in 2013 in South Africa. They live between 3 lakh 35,000 and 2 lakh 36,000 years ago. Small brain. They coexisted with early Homo sapiens. They know they have climbing ability and a diets of plant eat frugivorous eats plants and nuts. So no genetic traces of Homo naledi are found in modern humans. Modern humans have no any traces of Homo naledi. Now about the Homo floresiensis, which is known as the island hobbits, which is found in Indonesia, Flores Islands in 2003. Fluorescence stood about 1.1 meters tall with a brain size of 400 centimeter cube. So they used stone tools and hunted dwarf elephants. So they thought the Homo florensis thought to descend from Homo erectus. They evolved through island dwarfism. So their extinction may have inspired local folklore about small forest people. So it is a maze of Homo florensis and this is a maze of Homo naledi. So Homo habilis height and Homo erectus and Homo florensis. Homo erectus, then come Homo human. Homo erectus, a pioneer of migration and fire uses, appeared about 1.9 million years ago and was the first human species to which left Africa. So they colonized Europe and Asia. They came to Europe, Asia, and showed evolutionary advancement like upright posture, erect posture, uses fire, persistence, hunting, where their body brain are more modern like earlier hominids. So Homo erectus is considered as a home ancestor of Homo heidelbergensis, which in turn lead to Neanderthal. Homo erectus is considered an ancestor of Homo heidelbergensis, which in turn led to Neanderthal, then Denisovans, then Homo sapiens. So they survived in Asia until about 1,40,000 years ago. So there is a shared according after looking at all the evolution, there is a shared evolutionary tapestry. The species show how human evolution was not linear or it is isolated. So instead, it was a network of diverse species interacting and interbreeding. Genetic mixing with Neanderthal, Denisovan helped Homo sapiens, we human, adapt to new environments. So the coexistence of these species mark a rich biological and cultural biodiversity in late Pleistocene epoch. These are about the late Miocene, Pliocene, and Pleistocene, and late Pleistocene, we Homo sapiens, we human have evolved. Next is about radiotherapy demand and shortfall in India's cancer care. So radiotherapy remains a vitally important for cancer patient in India. So there is a shortfall in India's cancer care. However, its expansion faces challenges due to high cost and planning gaps. So, recent study by the Indian Council for Medical Research marks the urgent need to increase radiotherapy access to meet the growing cancer burden projected for 2025. So, India ranked third globally in cancer incidents with 7% of cases. By 2025, the new cancer cases are expected to reach 1.57 millions. Cancer is the fifth leading cause of death in India. Breast, head and neck, lung, cervical cancer from 60% of radiotherapy demands it. All the cancer demand radiotherapies. Yet only 28.5% of patients receive radiotherapy, far below the optimal 58.4%. So there is a major shortfall in treatment availability. Estimating radiotherapy utilization and equipment shortfalls. So, India currently has 794 megavolt machines, while the WHO recommends a minimum of one machine per million people, translating to 1,450 machine for India's population in 2025 is required. The actual need could be between 1,585 and 2,545 radiotherapy machine, which is potentially rising to over 2,000 for external beam radiotherapy alone. So disparity, there is a differences in radiotherapy access. So the shortfall is especially severe for lymphoma and lung cancer patient, blood cancer, lung cancer patient, which with deficits exceeding 70%. Prostate, breast, and esophageal cancer also face considerable gaps. So this distribution of radiotherapy services is uneven across various regions, which causes problem worsening the health problem of cancer patients. There are challenges in expansion and future direction. India is investing in indigenous radiotherapy machine to reduce import dependence and cost. Strengthening cancer screening and early detection can reduce advanced stage case, lower radiotherapy demand, and improving survival rates. About the policy implication and strategic priorities, meeting WHO standard requires urgent scaling up of radiotherapy infrastructure. Integrating radiotherapy expansion with cancer control programs will optimize resource use. So, investment in technology, training, and maintenance is important to sustain services. So, this approach will help bridge the gap between cancer burden and treatment capacity in India. So, these are about 57 current affairs news from 23rd to 31st July. Kindly watch the next series. I'm going to upload current affair part 2 series tomorrow, and kindly watch the next series of one word substitution, idioms, biotechnology. Thanks for watching. Stay consistent. Best of luck for your